We love villains for a lot of reasons, but it's still usually pretty clear that they're the bad guy, doing bad things for bad reasons. Unless, of course, you're willing to look a little closer, because sometimes they're doing despicable things for an honorable cause. From bad guys who are just trying to help, to monsters who are actually trying to teach a lesson. These are Netflix villains who are actually right about a thing or two. Spoilers ahead. Some films don't exist in terms of pure heroes and villains. Instead, they lay out the landscape where no one is 100% right, filled with gray areas that allow for intense, surprising storytelling. That's the case with Extraction, an action extravaganza that also features a character doing villainous things in the name of preserving the ones he loves. There are certain characters in Extraction that you could easily deem good guys or bad guys, depending on what point in the film you're watching. But Saju isn't really one of them. A former Special Forces operative who now works for a drug lord, Saju is tasked with a straightforward assignment by his boss: retrieve the kidnapped Ovi without paying the ransom. This leads Saju to do some pretty nasty stuff, including killing other people who are also trying to save the boy. However, he does these things not because he wants to, but because he's terrified of what the boy's drug lord father will do to his own family if he fails.
I love you. Always.
I love you too, Papa.
Saju's guilt comes back to haunt him later in the film, making it all the more clear that his villainy early in Extraction was less about hurting people and more about saving the ones he loves. The horror film Eli is a slow-burn haunted house movie that gradually morphs into something else entirely. The setup is fairly simple. Eli is a young boy with severe allergic reactions to just about everything, and Dr. Isabella Horn is hoping to fix that for him with experimental treatments at her secretive facility. Ultimately, though, Dr. Horn's intention is never to actually cure Eli, because Eli isn't really sick. He's actually the product of a dark bargain between his mother and Satan himself, because she wanted a son so badly she was willing to go to any lengths. That means Eli has terrifying powers, and if he ever learns how to use them, he could spell doom for humanity. So Dr. Horn and Eli's father are hoping to stop the carnage before it starts. They fail, of course, and Eli and his mother manage to escape to go off and meet Eli's real dad. Still though, no matter how happy we are for Eli at the end, you have to admit that Dr. Horn had a point. The kid is the literal spawn of Satan and has horrifying powers that allow him to kill with a thought. His House is one of the best new horror films of 2020. A nerve-shredding haunted house film with big ideas and high emotional stakes. And one of the reasons it works so well is that by the time it's over, you actually understand the monster's point. The film follows Rial and Bol, a refugee couple who are trying to make a new life for themselves in London after fleeing South Sudan. But a dark presence lurks in the walls of their new home, slowly driving Bol crazy and reminding him of the daughter they lost while escaping their homeland. Eventually, Rial figures out what's going on. The creature is an Apeth, a night witch that's there to remind them of a debt they owe, which the film then reveals. The daughter they lost was never theirs. She was a girl they stole from another family in order to make themselves look more in need of help in the midst of their escape, and her blood is on their hands.
Your life is not yours. You stole it.
So, in the end, the villain of His House is a supernatural representation of the guilt and sacrifice that comes from acts of desperation, and it's there to teach Rial and Bol that the only way through that pain is to accept it and live with it. The Old Guard follows a group of mercenaries as they set out to do a job and realize they've been set up. What sets the story apart is that the members of this particular group are immortal, or certainly nearly immortal. This unique talent is eventually discovered by Stephen Merrick, the CEO of a pharmaceutical company, who decides to kidnap the Old Guard and use their bodies as part of a scientific study that he believes could stop the aging process in humans.
We brought a cancer drug to the market last quarter. It's already saved hundreds of thousands of lives. Yet in development, it killed 250,000 lab mice. Now, I didn't ask for their little permissions. I'm not going to ask for yours.
Who thinks you're a mouse, Nikki?
Merrick's methods are absolutely deplorable, but when you sit back and think about it for a moment, you also realize he kind of has a point. If you found out about a group of immortals whose biology could save countless human lives, wouldn't you want to see if you could find a way to do that? Eurovision Song Contest: The Story of Fire Saga is a classic underdog story about two best friends, Lars and Sigrid, who make their dreams come true by entering the legendary Eurovision music competition to represent their native Iceland. Once they get to the event though, the duo known as Fire Saga find themselves beset on all sides by more experienced competition. Chief among their rivals is Alexander Lemtov, a sexy Russian vocalist who decides to take Secret under his wing. That creates a rift in Fire Saga, as Lars feels threatened by Lemtov's talents and charms.
All right. Okay, that's wonderful. Well, I see you there. Okay.
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 Though Lemtov is presented as a villain, Eurovision Song Contest ultimately reveals him to be a well-intentioned man who really did believe Secret wasn't living up to her full potential as a performer.
This is your moment. You go. Sing your heart out. Okay. Okay. Go.
Jingle Jangle A Christmas Journey tells the story of two toymakers and the different paths their lives take. For most of the film, the successful toymaker Gustafsson is presented as the villain. When he was younger, he stole the notebook of his former mentor, Jeronicus Jangle, leaving Jeronicus a ruined and bitter man, while Gustafsson collected all the glory.
I'm the Toymaker of the Year, 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 Toymaker of the Year!
But as the film goes on, it becomes clear that Gustafsson is unhappy, because he was never keen on stealing the inventions in the first place. He was manipulated by Jeronicus's living Matador toy. Gustafsson's real desire the entire time was just to make one of his own inventions work. Gustafsson did bad things, but they were bad things rooted in a fundamental need for help he never received. It's easy to see why it was all such a struggle for him. Thanks for watching. Click the links in our video to watch more from Netflix Film Club. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get the latest exclusive videos. Plus, hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.